Hi, I'm Chloe, a Western astrologer, artist, and creative collaborator. Here on this channel of C.My.Sky, I offer astrology through a poetic yet practical lens. I use the tropical zodiac, whole sign houses, and my work is deeply rooted in Hellenistic tradition while still speaking to the nuance and messiness and grace of being human. Today, we're diving into the new moon of Cancer for 2025 and exploring what it means for each of the 12 rising signs. So, whether you're planting new seeds or just feeling the pull of change, we'll walk through how this lunation might be showing up in your chart and your life. This new moon in Cancer is ruled by and conjoining an exalted Jupiter in Cancer. And so we're being invited to plant seeds in soft, rich, fertile soil. But given Saturn in a hard aspect, we're being asked to plant these seeds with calloused and capable hands. And some of us don't quite yet have the calluses being asked of us. With Jupiter exalted and sitting Cazimi in the heart of the sun, we're witnessing the rebirth of Jupiter's synodic cycle, which means a reset for our relationship to hope, our worldview, our relationship to compassion, wisdom, and growth. The Kazemi moment marks the beginning of a new story arc around what we believe is possible and where we're willing to expand. Generally speaking, experientially, this can feel like a quiet click, a moment of emotional insight, or deep knowing that clarifies the kind of future we want to grow toward. But Jupiter's expansion meets the stern gaze of Saturn and Aries, reminding us that longing alone isn't enough to hold the weight without structure. So, our dreams and yearning to connect are tender and present, yes, and they also need scaffolding. So, this lunation, generally speaking, asks how can we grow our dreams of care, family, and inner security while staying anchored in responsibility, agency, and self leadership? It's a check in, recognizing your need for nourishment as valid, and also understanding the kind of scaffolding you're building to support it. In this process, tenderness is not weakness. Boundaries are not coldness. And this is a moon for learning how to care deeply without overextending, to feel without collapsing, and to remember that sometimes the most loving thing we can do for ourselves and for others is to build a safer container for growth. It'll be hopefully a container protected by wisdom and discernment and not walls. So let's get into it. For all the rising signs. All right, so starting with Aries and Aries rising. How are we doing, Aries and Aries rising? So we have Jupiter in Cancer and the new moon moving through your fourth house. It's spotlighting themes of home, family, roots, belonging, specifically emotional roots. This is really a year looking at this for nourishing the soil you grow from, perhaps through a move, deepening family ties, or creating more emotionally supportive home base. Since Jupiter is also ruling the ninth house of Sagittarius, of travel, belief systems, publishing, higher learning, and your 12th house of Pisces, we're really seeing that. Oh, and by the way, 12th house of Pisces is like healing, spiritual retreat, unconscious patterns. This transit is really stirring a desire to reconcile your inner and outer worlds. You may be pulled to explore spiritual traditions rooted in ancestry, given the Cancerian relationship to family, or rework unconscious beliefs around safety and security. Education or travel may be less about expanding your resume and more about understanding where and with whom you feel emotionally at home. You might also invest in a long distance move, spiritual retreat, or you could be considering publishing work that emerges from a private or emotional origin story. Saturn in your first house is asking for clarity around who you're becoming. The clearer you are about your personal direction and boundaries, the easier it is to know what kind of support and structure you're really needing. And if we think of Saturn as a personal coach, or personal trainer for your willpower. It's really helping you build discipline to carry the weight of your own expansion. I've been thinking of journaling questions to follow suit with each of these rising signs, and the one that comes to mind for Aries and Aries rising is, or what kind of emotional foundation do you want to grow your future from? And what inner discipline is really needed to support it? I'll say as a last minute note, with Saturn and Neptune in the first house, I would just be mindful of sort of impulsive decisions. I think you'll be noticing the consequences, or at least feeling the consequences of those fairly quickly, given the nature of Saturn there. Hope that finds you well, and I hope that's helpful to you. Great. Moving on to my Taurus and Taurus risings. All right, so we see Taurus here in our first house. All right, so Taurus and Taurus rising. Jupiter in Cancer is expanding your third house, and the new moon is asking you to plant seeds related to that. So, your third house is going to be a zone that governs your thoughts, your mind, learning, communication, your immediate environment, siblings, vehicles, and short distance travel. With this transit here, it's really inviting you to nurture the way you speak, listen, and learn, and experiencing growth and expansion and addressing maybe familial patterns in that regard. You might be called to write more, connect with siblings or neighbors in emotionally meaningful ways, or revamp your social media presence to reflect a deeper emotional intelligence. Jupiter here is really asking you to, or encouraging you to speak with warmth and from the heart, and to really be teaching from lived experience by sharing knowledge that feels nourishing and not just informational. Because Jupiter rules your eighth house of Sagittarius, being shared resources, intimacy, inheritance, sex, psychological transformation, and your 11th house of community, friendships, and long-term dreams. This is a powerful time to express your needs and your dreams in both private and public spheres. With Saturn in the 12th house, you might be experiencing some doubt. Neptune in there might be creating some fog in the 12th house of the subconscious and fears. And I think you're going to find that having honest conversations is really going to open the door to deeper trust in intimate or collaborative relationships, especially with Mars, your house, your planet of partnership, transiting the fifth house of creativity, romanticism, children, etc. I think you're also going to find that storytelling draws in different kinds of communities that you really long to be a part of. You might be reevaluating which collaborations or friendships truly nourish you, or invest in skills that help you speak about vulnerable topics with more ease. There's an urge to communicate in ways that heal. And with the Saturn square there, can see maybe some doubt intercepting that. And I think here it's really recognizing that your voice might become a tool for collective vision or personal catharsis. Yeah, let's address Saturn and Aries a bit more. With Saturn and Aries moving through the 12th house, you're being asked to confront your internal limits and spiritual blind spots. What has been hidden, avoided, or unspoken? You could feel an invisible weight or a sense of karmic responsibility really pressing on your inner life and internal dialogue. This is a time to build stronger boundaries between your energy and others, and to take rest and solitude seriously. Those things, rest and solitude, are not luxuries, but really treating it as like a spiritual discipline and as a way of nourishing your soul. Saturn here is teaching you how to hold your own hand when no one's watching. The more structure you give your inner world, the more sustainable your outer expression becomes. Don't mistake quietness for stagnation, and the more structure you're able to provide, rest, ritual, or solitude, the more sustainable your outward expression can become. For the new moon intention question, I've been pondering for Taurus risings, how can you make space for communication that is honest, healing, and rooted in emotional presence? Right on. Hope that resonates. Moving on to Gemini and Gemini rising. Bing! Ooh, Geminis, we have Uranus about to enter your first house, but that is not what this video is about this time. So first things first, Jupiter in Cancer and the new moon in Cancer is expanding your second house of income, finances, personal resources, maybe skills that you use to make money or to sustain yourself. And your second house is also related to your self-worth. This is really a fertile time to deepen your relationship with what you value financially, emotionally, and spiritually. You could find that you're feeling inspired to develop skills that are emotionally resonant or to pursue an income stream that feels more nurturing rather than draining. There could be a desire to spend more on comfort, on food, or family-related expenses, but also a recognition that money is more meaningful when it aligns with what truly feeds you. You may be looking for more emotional security through material stability at this time. Since Jupiter rules your seventh house of Sagittarius, of partnership and collaboration, and your 10th house of Pisces being your career, legacy, and public image, your values are also influencing how and with whom you work. You might be evaluating the emotional balance in your professional or even romantic partnerships and asking yourself if your work is reflective of your heart. Investments in partnership, whether romantic or business, may also bear fruit only if they align with your long-term vision. You might also attract support from partners who value your voice and deeply value your emotional intelligence. Saturn in Aries is moving through your 11th house right now, highlighting your friendships, networks, and long-term goals. This can feel like a pressure point of where are your dreams maturing and are your dreams maturing alongside you? Are the people you spend time with helping you grow? Or are they weighing you down? Are the people around you aligned with your long-term vision? Saturn here is asking for discernment. Saturn here might also have you comparing yourself to others. Don't do that. Don't do that. A good reframe could be healthy competition or understanding how these people are challenging or inspiring you to meet your goals or reframing your dreams. Your community is either scaffolding your future or distracting you from it. The more clearly you define your goals and boundaries, the easier it'll be to cultivate relationships that really support your emotional and material expansion. Just, yeah, remember you don't have to be everywhere or to please everyone, and really focus on the friendships and visions that feed your sense of purpose. New moon intention question for Gemini and Gemini rising. What beliefs about worth, financial or emotional, are you ready to release in order to receive or create more support? That's what I got for you. Going on to Cancer rising. Hello, my Cancer and Cancer risings. We're giving main character energy. Love it. The new moon conjunct Jupiter in your own sign is really about you. You get one new moon in your first house every year, and this one's for you, Cancer. The new moon conjunct Jupiter in your own sign is really marking a year of personal growth, emotional expansion, and increased visibility, which, depending on other personal placements in your chart, you may or may not enjoy. Moving through your first house, Jupiter is bringing a renewed sense of vitality, optimism, and an urge to move through the world with more emotional authenticity. You could be feeling a growing desire to advocate for your own needs, speak more openly from the heart, or embrace opportunities that once felt too vulnerable or uncertain. Your presence is carrying more weight now, and people are likely to notice your warmth, sensitivity, insight, and capacity to hold space. Since Jupiter is also ruling your sixth house of Sagittarius, being daily work, schedule routines, and health, and your ninth house of Pisces being beliefs, higher education, travel, this year is offering a chance to realign your habits with a broader sense of purpose. Your expansion is deeply tied to how you live each day. You could be pursuing new studies, new skills, spiritual practices, or travel experiences that really influence how you show up in your day to day. And there's a sense that tending to your body, schedule, and emotional well being is really essential to your bigger dreams. Here you can find that you may be inspired to create new routines that support your body or embark on a path of spiritual or educational development. And with Saturn and Aries moving through your 10th house of career, public image, and responsibility, it's serving as a pressure cooker. Your Saturn and Aries is moving through your 10th house of career, public image, and responsibility, offering a reality check on structures holding your ambition. There's a professional pressure, and you're really trying to stay positive in the midst of career changes or maybe even retirement for some of you, and figuring out the discipline required of your new day-to-day schedule, how to maintain your physical health and mental well-being. You could feel pressure to prove yourself, set clearer boundaries in professional spaces, or define your goals more concretely. It might feel like certain doors or paths are closing, but only so that more aligned ones can open. This is really a time to take your authority seriously and to commit to the long game. The clearer you are about your long-term vision, the easier it'll be to say no to distractions and yes to growth that's expansive and sustainable. When your inner and outer purpose align, real growth becomes sustainable. Let's touch upon your new moon intention question. Who are you becoming? And what emotional truth do you want to lead with as you step more fully into view? That helps. Okay, moving on to Leo rising. Hello, Leo rising, and my Leos. What's up? You got Jupiter in Cancer and the new moon in Cancer moving through your 12th house. The 12th house is a place of retreat. It's the unconscious, dreams, and spiritual restoration. It's not a loud kind of growth that you're going to be experiencing in this house. It's quiet, emotional, and often invisible to others, but it's deeply felt. You might find yourself drawn to introspective practices, dream work, therapy, or spiritual studies that help you soften old defenses and really nourish your inner life. It's a time of gentle unraveling where forgiveness and solitude carry more healing power than ambition or visibility at this time. You might feel more attuned to symbolic language, ancestral insight, or deep emotional truths long buried under performance or pride. There is deep power in the pause. You're learning to nurture yourself without needing external validation, which is an ongoing theme for people with Leo placements, myself included. Since Jupiter rules your fifth house of Sagittarius and your eighth house of Pisces, we're seeing Jupiter making its mark on creativity, children, and pleasure, as well as intimacy, grief, shared resources, inheritance, etc. So, this is a profound time to explore how joy and connection arise from your private emotional world. You may be creating something behind the scenes, grieving a past version of yourself, or preparing for a quiet emergence. How are creativity and intimacy shaped by what you've hidden, forgotten, or don't yet see about yourself? Perhaps you're incubating in a creative project in private or grieving the loss of a former identity before birthing a new one. Jupiter here is really asking what could blossom if you trusted what happens in the dark. Your joy deepens when it's no longer tied to external validation. Again. Meanwhile, let's see, we have Saturn and Aries transiting your ninth house of beliefs, publishing, higher education, and long distance travel. This is where structure meets philosophy. You might be refining a spiritual or academic path at this time, committing to a long-term study that helps toward some sort of career advancement, or feeling the weight of needing to know, to really know in a world where certainty is fleeting. Your worldview is maturing, and that could mean releasing dogma or outdated visions of what success looks like for you. The clearer you are about your moral compass and intellectual integrity, the easier it'll be to navigate this sort of internal growth. Saturn here is the architect helping you lay the philosophical foundation for what comes next. As your inner world is transforming, your outer philosophy is maturing to meet it. Our new moon intention question for Leo rising: what hidden parts of you are asking to be tended with compassion and devotion? And what could bloom if you were able to separate your joy from a desire for external validation? Oh, right on. Moving on to Virgo and Virgo rising. Hello, Virgo and Virgo rising. We have Jupiter in Cancer bringing boons and blessings and expansion to your 11th house, or at the very least, yearning for that expansion. Um, we have the new moon here that's allowing you to plant seeds in the realm of friendships, communities, and long-term aspirations. Here you can find yourself drawn to emotionally resonant connections, group spaces that feel nourishing, or collective dreams that bring out your softer side. This could look like deepening your role in community, finding friends who feel like chosen family, or stepping into a more visible leadership role within a network of care. The emotional quality of your relationships matters more than ever now. You want your dreams to really be held by people who really see you. With Jupiter ruling both your fourth house of Sagittarius, of home family roots, the past, and your seventh house of Pisces, partnership and one-on-one dynamics, this transit is really bringing forth your longing for belonging. You may be reimagining what it means to be at home with other people, both literally and symbolically. Friendships can blur into family, and business partnerships might emerge from shared ideals. You could find that you're also investing more energy into causes that align with your emotional values, or collaborating with others to build something lasting and soulful. Here at the same time, you have Saturn and Aries moving through your eighth house, the territory of shared resources, intimacy, and psychological transformation. Yeah, this transit may bring a sense of seriousness or pressure around finances you share with others, commitments, or emotional entanglements. It's really asking you to take responsibility for your energetic boundaries and to get honest about what you're carrying that is and isn't yours to hold. You could be asked to confront fears around vulnerability or scarcity. I could see that really coming up. And maybe, yeah, trying to get a hold on a better handle on debt potentially. Saturn here is trying to be an ally despite being in its fall. It's asking you to prune and to purify bonds that matter most. It's sort of like a crucible for this vulnerability. The more honest you are about what you need and what you're giving, the more ease Jupiter can bring into your collective and emotional life. For this new moon, I would love for Virgo risings and Virgos to ask themselves what kind of future community or shared vision feels worth emotionally investing in now. All right, thanks, Virgo. Moving on to Libra and Libra rising. Hello, my Libra risings. We have Jupiter in Cancer and the new moon moving through your 10th house of career, visibility, and life direction. Purpose, whatever you, legacy, if you will. I think there's more than one purpose than just your 10th house. But yeah, it's Jupiter and Cancer and the new moon here is really asking you to lead with emotional wisdom. This year is a year of recognition, but not just for your achievements. You're stepping into a season of emotional leadership. You're being seen for your capacity to care, to lead with empathy, and to bring emotional intelligence into public spaces. You may rise through work that centers care, creative leadership, or collective nourishment or family values. There's potential for professional growth, especially if you're stepping into roles that allow you to be a caretaker, teacher, advocate. And it's not just about success, it's about really creating a public life that reflects your innermost values. And with Jupiter ruling your third house of Sagittarius, being communication, learning, the local environment, slash neighborhood, and your sixth house of Pisces being health, daily work, and service, your public work is really being shaped by your day-to-day habits and your voice. This could be a powerful year to publish something meaningful, shift how you're using social media, or commit to working a routine that supports long-term goals. Your ability to synthesize small acts of care into a bigger public message is a superpower this year. It's a superpower in general, but it's especially superpower this year. Daily consistency, emotional attunement, and the courage to speak from the heart become essential ingredients in your rise. Your visibility is shaped by the messages you share and the habits you cultivate, and the way you speak, write, or teach now really has the power to ripple outward. Meanwhile, Saturn in Aries is traveling through your seventh house of one-on-one relationships, helping you define what real partnership and commitment looks like for you. This transit may be sobering, may bring sobering truths around relationships, romantic relationships, business or otherwise, and boundaries are being tested. You're learning that love and respect aren't just felt, they're built. And while Jupiter calls you into greater public visibility, Saturn reminds you that your personal commitments must be able to support your growth. The clearer you are about what you want in relationships, the easier it becomes to align your career and your life path with inner values. Let's see. Yeah, you don't have to do it all alone, is what I would say. But you do need to choose your collaborators wisely. This is a time to define commitments, to set clear expectations, and to build something durable with people who really and truly support your vision. For your new moon question, for intention setting, I would ask Libra risings, how can you let your work be a reflection of your emotional truth? And who do you need beside you to support that? Excellent. Thank you, Libra risings. I believe that concludes Libra and moving into Scorpio rising. Boop, 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 boop. I'm still debating if I'm gonna just like edit this video later or just send it out. Man, part of me is like, I know if I edit this, I'm gonna be kind of cringing at some of the things that I've done and said, and I'm also just like, you know what? We're doing our best and Gonna be gentle on myself for my first video. You know what I'm saying? All right, Scorpio rising. Hello, Scorpio and Scorpio rising. We have Jupiter in Cancer with a new moon in Cancer moving through your ninth house. The ninth house is the realm of beliefs, travel, education, publishing, and spiritual perspective. This is a year for widening your lens on life, but doing so in a way that honors your emotional truths. You may feel called to study, teach, travel especially, travel internationally especially, but the core motivation now it isn't prestige, it's meaning making. You're seeking experiences that touch the soul, whether that's a return to school, a healing pilgrimage, or simply letting your worldview soften and expand. Emotional wisdom here becomes a guiding principle, and felt experience does as well. With Jupiter ruling your second house of Sagittarius, being money, skills, self-worth, and your fifth house of Pisces, creativity, pleasure, children, passion projects, this expansion isn't just this abstract thing to toy with. It's deeply personal. You're exploring how your beliefs impact your self-worth, your ability to create, to earn, and to take up space with joy. You might find yourself investing in courses, certifications, or spiritual practices that help you reclaim your creative confidence or financial faith. This is also a beautiful time for blending your emotional intelligence with what you teach or create. And your ability to give is directly tied to your ability to trust in your own value. Pleasure and abundance are both possible, but first you must believe you deserve them. This could also show up as reform around beliefs of how you want to spend your money and that you might be more willing to spend money on travel. You might be more willing to spend money on and save up money even for having children, for spending money on creative enterprise and personal hobbies that bring you joy. Meanwhile, we have Saturn in Aries moving through the sixth house of health, habits, service, and daily routine, offering, I say offering, but it might feel a little challenging, offering grounding structure to all this growth. Given that this is a squaring aspect, it could feel difficult or you're being reminded that your daily rituals are what sustain you in the midst of dreaming big and traveling far. Or you might have some sort of obligation to a daily ritual or schedule to in the midst of dreaming big and traveling far. You might feel some friction between your expansive aspirations and your very real responsibilities, whether they're obligations at work, your body's limits, or care duties. But Saturn here is helping you build scaffolding for the long haul. The clearer you are about your goals and your rhythms, the easier it is for Jupiter to lift you without burning you out. Expansion doesn't have to mean chaos, and it can mean consistency in service of a bigger dream. Your daily rituals and schedule are here to be the spine for your growth. Grounded discipline can be devotional to your well-being and help you expand your belief in yourself. For my Scorpio and Scorpio risings, the question I love for you to ask yourself is, what new beliefs about joy, self-worth, values, or possibility are you ready to embody? And how can you support it through daily action? Moving on to Sagittarius rising and Sagittarius. Putting Sag on the ascendant. Uh, 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 uh. Hello, Sagittarius rising and Sagittarius. We have the new moon in Cancer and Jupiter in Cancer moving through your eighth house. The eighth house is really a deeply emotional and transformative part of the chart that governs intimacy, shared resources, psychological healing, inheritance, debt, sex, the energetic exchange, really, and merging. This is A year of emotional rebirth for Sag and Sag rising, where growth may come not through lightness necessarily, but through depth. You're you might be working through fears around dependency, vulnerability, scarcity, healing old grief, or you could be merging finances, energy, or lives more fully with another. You could really be reaping benefits of someone else's generosity at this time. You're ready to feel more, to merge more deeply, and to really rebuild trust where it's been broken. And rebuilding that trust really starts with you and yourself, given that Jupiter rules your first house. There may be opportunities to receive support, financial or emotional, but they come with a call to really open yourself fully to that support. Jupiter here can bring inheritance or investments, or again, that financial or emotional support piece I was talking about. But the true treasure is really emotional resilience in all of this. You're learning that vulnerability is not weakness, but a threshold to trust, especially when the heart is protected by wisdom and not by walls. With Jupiter ruling your first house of Sagittarius, being the self, the mind, the body, like you, your direction, your vitality, and your fourth house of Pisces, being home, family, roots, the past. This transformation reaches all the way into your sense of identity and belonging. You're changing from the inside out, perhaps reworking what it means to feel safe with others and rebuilding a home life that really supports your expansion. You could be investing in therapy as well, or at this time find a really helpful therapist, renovating your living situation, or navigating long-term emotional commitments that reshape your future. This is an invitation to receive more support and to trust your own capacity to hold intensity with grace. I would say that here you're really letting tenderness remake you. You're redefining what it means to be safe with another and with yourself. Saturn in Aries is transiting your fifth house of creativity, children, pleasure, joy, self-expression. Saturn in its fallen Aries here, it could feel like a joy killer. It feels like you might have to fight to put up boundaries around your energy so you can birth something meaningful. While Jupiter's asking you to go deeper, Saturn is asking you to mature the ways in which you pursue joy, pleasure, and to take your creative life seriously. For those of you with kids, you might see that your children are maybe facing limitations or going through significant periods of growth. It could be that you're maturing through the prospect of exploring having children or through your children, or facing and having to confront parts of yourself as a parent, or as someone who's reparenting yourself. You might also be stepping into more responsibility with children or facing limitations around how freely you can express yourself. Saturn here isn't trying to dampen your spark, so to speak. It's really refining it. Maybe you're needing to explicitly carve out time for fun or create structure or duty to your joy and creativity and make time for romance. Your passions here really want roots. The clearer you are about what you want to create or who you're creating for, the easier it becomes to pour your heart into it without burning out. The new moon intention question I have for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising is, what kind of emotional vulnerability are you are you ready to meet with courage? And what truth could set that emotional vulnerability free? Right on. Capricorn and Capricorn rising. Hello, sweet Cappies. How we doing? Capricorn and Capricorn rising. We have Jupiter and the new moon in an angular house. You're like, what the hell does that mean? Capricorn rising, with the new moon and Jupiter in Cancer, it's activating your seventh house of partnerships, bringing a greater sense of yearning for devoted, emotionally enriching connection. Whether you're entering a new relationship, deepening an existing one, or healing from the past, this is a year for growing love that feels safe, supportive, and soul deep. This may be a year for growing closer to someone, entering a committed relationship, or reimagining and feeling into what intimacy really looks like when it's nurtured with care and mutual trust. Jupiter here invites expansion through the mirror of another. You're being asked to soften, to allow more nourishment into your life, and it's really through relational reciprocity. This isn't about like a flashy romance by any means, but really about being seen, held, and understood. Since Jupiter also rules your 12th house of the subconscious, of solitude, spiritual healing, and fears, and then you have the third house of Pisces ruling communication, learning, your neighborhood, siblings, speech, thoughts, etc. Relationships may arise through less traditional paths, maybe through introspection, spiritual study, or quieter exchanges. You're finding meaning in subtle gestures, shared silences, and heart-centered conversations. There's growth in the way you express your emotions and listen to others, and your desire to partner with those who understand your emotional interior is really heightened at this time. You may also feel called to share more of your inner world, write about emotional experiences, journal, or reflect aloud with someone who really gets you. I said this for Sagittarius, but I also will say this for Capricorn. This could be a really great time to find a therapist who is really able to help you move through things. Or just be with really emotionally attuned people who are able to help you turn that out as well. At the same time, Saturn in Aries is moving through your fourth house of home, family, and emotional grounding. Yeah, Saturn in Aries is bringing structure to your private life or private world. There may be a weighty feeling of responsibility as it pertains to family. There might be like limits around living arrangements or a uh, a push, a push to establish firmer emotional boundaries at home. You're probably sifting through who you want to let in to your home space. You might be working things out with people you live with or trying to figure out new arrangements with them. Saturn here is supporting you and tending to your inner foundations since you are Saturn. You're being asked to tend to inner foundation that partnership relies on. You're being asked to define safety on your own terms and to become the container for your own emotional needs before asking another to join you there. The clearer you are about where you come from and what you need to feel secure, the more easily Jupiter can open the doors to a love that is lasting. My advice in this case is that Saturn and Aries in your fourth house isn't about isolation, it's about safety and solitude. And so just the stronger your inner foundation, the more fully you can trust yourself and that you can receive the love that Jupiter and this new moon is offering. The new moon intention question for Capricorn and Capricorn rising. What would it mean to create space for a relationship that nourishes me or that nourishes you without compromising your emotional safety? What would it mean to create space for a relationship that nourishes you without compromising your emotional safety? Aquarius and Aquarius rising. Beep, 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 beep. Hello, Aquarius rising. How we doing? How you doing, my aqua babies? Okay, we're looking at Jupiter in Cancer, bringing growth and healing to your sixth house of work, health, daily routine and habits, and service. The day-to-day grind. I would also like to acknowledge the elephant in the room, and the elephant not being the proverbial association with Jupiter, but the elephant being Pluto passing through your first house, especially if you're early degree Aquarius. It just feel like a really, we'll just say cathartic time for you right now of reevaluating who you are in relation to the world in total. But let's focus on the new moon. Here we're seeing a new moon in Cancer in the sixth house around daily habits, work, health, routine, and service. This is a time to create more emotionally intelligent routines. As weird as that sounds, you're really going to want to make routines that honor you, your body, your boundaries, and your capacity to care for others without totally losing yourself or getting lost in the sauce. You might feel called to expand your work in nurturing or caregiving roles, or to invest more time into practices that make you feel sustained and supported. It's not just about being productive, it's about tending to the emotional undercurrents that impact your energy each day. There may be new opportunities at work, a shift in your schedule, maybe work's more demanding in some ways, and then there could also be a greater focus on healing your relationship to food and looking to emotional nourishment as medicine. Because Jupiter also rules your 11th house of Sagittarius, which is community, dreams, friendships, and networking. And then it also rules your second house of Pisces, being money, self-worth, and resources. This expansion is directly tied to your values and your future. You may find your daily efforts are now supporting a long-term dream, or that your financial and emotional stability serves to help you grow as you learn to ask for help and care for yourself. Community support here and collaborative work may open new doors. There could be opportunities to monetize a gift, expand your team, or refine your network and workflow in ways that are more aligned with your values and what would be nourishing for you. On the other hand, or meanwhile, Saturn in Aries is transiting your third house of communication, learning, and local environment. You are Saturn, so to speak. Saturn here is calling you to speak with clarity, to be discerning about what you give your mental energy to, and to treat your words like long-term investments. Speaking off the cuff here, you might notice the consequences of that more quickly if you are prone to that. You may feel pressure to set boundaries with siblings, neighbors, or within even like digital spaces, since the third house is communication and those digital spaces. You're also being asked to grow up in the way you process and express your thoughts and feelings. This could be a powerful time to build a writing practice, to develop your voice, to develop a new skill, to learn how to create more structure around how you share information, or skills pertaining to the act of learning. The clearer you are about how you think and what you say, the easier it is to direct Jupiter's growth into daily rhythms that actually serve you. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, I would just say with Saturn in the third house, sharpening your mind and asking you to get really like serious about your voice and being a little more strategic, though forward with emotional honesty in everyday exchanges. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're acknowledging your speech and your thoughts like they matter because they do. New moon intention question for Aquarius and Aquarius rising. What daily rhythm or mental boundary could support you in showing up for your goals with more presence? Last but not least, Pisces and Pisces rising. How are we doing Pisces and Pisces rising? We have Jupiter in a water sign trying to you, and you're also ruled by Jupiter. So pretty juicy stuff, if you ask me. Let's see. Very nice. So Jupiter in Cancer and the new moon in Cancer is moving through your fifth house of creativity, children, pleasure, romance, and parts of your life that really allow you to feel joyfully self-expressed. This is a year to make more room for what makes you feel alive and vibrant. Whether you're returning to a forgotten art form, deepening your relationship with a child, or your whether that's a child of yours, another child, or your own inner child, or letting yourself fall in love again with someone or with life itself. This is really focusing on heart-centered growth. I would also say that there's a possibility for uterus having folk to get pregnant here, so I would just be mindful of that. If that's your intention, great, and if that's not your intention, just something to be mindful about. There's a greater sense of yearning to give and receive affection and to feel emotionally safe in your creative process and to experience love that really nourishes your inner child. You may also be more prolific than usual in regard to writing, painting, dancing, and again, potentially gestating a creative or literal child. So, could be your art baby, could be a literal baby, you know? Jupiter also rules your first house of Pisces, of your self, identity, and direction, and your 10th house of Sagittarius being, generally speaking, career, legacy, public reputation, meaning that this year's joy and self-expression feed directly into your sense of self and purpose. You're remembering that play is part of the process, and you don't have to suffer to succeed. In fact, your most expansive and publicly supported work may emerge when you allow yourself to be seen in your softness, or when you're doing something that you're genuinely excited about. This is a time when claiming pleasure and honoring your gifts can align your personal and professional life in really beautiful ways. At the same time, you have Saturn and Aries moving through your second house of finances, skills, values, self-worth. This is a part of the chart where you must define your value on your own terms. You may be facing new financial responsibilities or feeling the pressure to stabilize your income. Maybe some of the demands of the fifth house, being joy, creativity, children, are pulling on some financial tension for you or making you take your finances more seriously, your self-worth more seriously, the skills you monetize. And yeah, Saturn's asking you to take those gifts seriously and to price your work in alignment with what it's truly worth and to build sustainable systems for earning and for saving. Pleasure without a foundation becomes escapism. Here, Saturn's really helping you turn joy into something you can build on so that beauty you create isn't fleeting but lasting. The clearer you are about your value, the more confidently you can step into the spotlight. And Pisces, your new moon intention question that I want you to ask yourself is how can you nurture your creativity, your joy, your romantic life in a way that is simultaneously expansive and also pays mind to ways in which you can build something lasting through honoring your self-worth and responsibility. Thanks for tuning in to See My Sky Astrology for the new moon in Cancer horoscope. I hope that it resonated with you and would love to hear what your experience is of the new moon and how you're all doing out there. And yeah, I'm really looking to build this channel as a means of cultivating community and finding other people with whom my voice or approach to astrology resonates. I would also really love feedback since this is really my first time doing anything like this. So if you have any feedback, it would be much appreciated.